and welcome to the Postpartum Years podcast. I am your host, Dr. Ellen Kramp. I am a physical therapist and a pelvic health specialist. With me today is Pamela Newman. She is a social worker, a therapist as well, and but she's here in the capacity of mom.
I can be both, right?
Yes, you can do both. If you want to add things, from the social worker therapist perspective, then please do.
Sure.
You told me that you have 3 kids,
I do.
and so let's go ahead and start with pregnancy number 1. How did
Okay.
that go for you?
So we had tried for a year before I got pregnant with my first, and I had like a procedure done and miraculously got pregnant after. It was
HSG,
HSG. Yeah, the one where
hysterosalpingogram.
they shoot iodine into you, which
Yeah,
was not comfortable. But as the doctor said, that was like roto-rooter for my
tubes.
fallopian tubes.
Yeah.
And then I was able to get pregnant. So, the pregnancy was okay. I didn't have like any major complications. I was pretty lucky in that way. I did have like a weird thing where I would get hungry, and if I didn't eat within like a 10-minute period of that, then I would like feel nauseous and not be able to eat for hours. Like it was very strange. But I was, I didn't really have much morning sickness. Like it was a fairly easy pregnancy. I definitely thought with my first, like, okay, I'm eating for 2, so I can eat for 2. They rotate you through all the doctors in the practice to like during your appointments to figure out like, just in case you give birth on a day when your doctor's not working, you see
Mm-hmm.
everyone. So I saw this one doctor who was young, who had never been pregnant, I think. And she pretty much told me I was gaining too much weight and I was going to have a problem afterwards because I gained so much weight. And saying that to a pregnant woman is not the best thing. I can't remember the word she used, but you leave the appointment in tears, like, oh my gosh, I'm so fat. I already feel like I'm,
Mm-hmm.
a balloon giant basketball in my belly. And, I had thought like, okay, everybody jokes about, oh, you can eat whatever you want when you're pregnant and you don't need to worry about it. And clearly that was wrong. So yeah, in terms of the pregnancy, it was pretty normal. Like I was very lucky. And at that point, I was considered a geriatric pregnancy, which is fun when you see that on the paperwork because I was 37 at the time. And I went in on the day before my due date, and my doctor checks me and she told me my cervix was unfavorable, which was interesting. Unfavorable, meaning like I wasn't dilated enough. So they ended up inducing me a couple days after because they didn't want me going too long. And I
Because of
guess
the geriatric pregnancy, yeah.
because geriatric and the placenta
That
and all
kind
the
of
things.
stuff. Mm-hmm.
So I actually liked being induced because like I knew, hey, the baby's coming this day. So it was very predictable, and like I got to eat my meal and take my shower and do all the things and feel like prepared to go in and be induced. And I was in labor for 12 hours. I ended up getting an episiotomy, which I didn't know what that was. It was kind of like the doctor was moving fast and she was like, I need to cut you so that we can get this baby out. So I ended up getting an episiotomy, which was very painful. But in terms of like the delivery, I was just in labor for 12 hours and it was pretty easy. Like I think it was a pretty easy pregnancy. There wasn't like a whole lot of complication. I think it was for me, the weight gain and the episiotomy was horrible. in terms of postpartum, I think the thing that's most fascinating to me looking back and being a mental health professional and like knowing what I know about depression and anxiety, and I am trained in cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm trained in recognizing thought patterns and intrusive thoughts and all these sorts of things. And I didn't realize at the time how much postpartum anxiety and depression I was having. Because
Mm-hmm.
when you're in it, it just feels so real.
Mm-hmm.
And being a first time mom, like I was one of the last of my friends to have kids. I felt like I knew a fair amount about babies. Like I wasn't scared of babies, but I never imagined being so scared of something bad happening to my baby. I never imagined having that intense fear and
Mm-hmm.
intense like sadness and just, all the hormones and the emotionality around it. But like, yeah, I used to envision like all the ways my daughter could die. And it was terrifying. And at the time, like, I don't think I ever really talked to anyone about it because, like, the mental health professional part of me knew, like, this is not rational. This
Mm-hmm.
is, just something your brain is conjuring up. But it's hard to not feel it and be
Mm-hmm.
terrified. Um, so I became, like, very protective and very much, and this was pre-COVID, like, very much, like, scared of the germs and scared of the, like, I don't want anything bad happening to her, and was very, I'll do everything myself.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think set me up for failure later. I was very lucky that I had a pretty easy pregnancy, pretty easy delivery. Everything with my daughter was normal, no complications, but breastfeeding, I think, is the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life.
Tell me more about that.
Nobody ever told me because again, I was one of the last of my friends to have babies. So like I'd seen them all breastfeed and they're like just sticking the baby on their boob and it's like do, baby eats, everything's fine. But and you think, oh, it's so natural and whatever. And all my friends were like, oh, I lost all this weight breastfeeding. It'll be great. Like, it's fine. I had a lot of trouble in terms of like my daughter latching properly and knowing what to do. And it just was so time consuming and I wasn't producing enough. So I did like all the things. I did like the cookies and the brewer's yeast and the like all the hacks that you see online. And I talked to like the lactation consultant at the hospital and I went into the first second pediatrician appointment and my pediatrician was like, she's losing too much weight. You need to supplement. And in the doctor's office, I just had a meltdown because it's so it just makes you feel, well, it made me feel like I'm not a good enough mother that I can't produce for my child.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's not the intention of the pediatrician. The pediatrician wants my baby to be healthy. It doesn't want me to feel bad, but like I felt awful.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up supplementing, which, once I got over that, like I needed to learn like, okay, maybe I'm just not a big producer and that's okay. And that has nothing to do with how I am as a mother.
Mm-hmm.
But again, when you're in that state of like postpartum depression, anxiety, it's so hard to think clearly about any of this stuff. And, my husband was very reassuring, but it's still like, what am I doing wrong? What's wrong with me? All that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I breastfed for 10 months with each of my kids. It's like a part-time job,
Mm-hmm.
which no one realizes, like all of the time in terms of like clocking it and the pumping and the saving it and the pumping at night and the, and with my first, I ended up getting a night nurse. and I let her go after a couple of days because I was like, this is silly. She's just bringing her to me to breastfeed and it's waking me up anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
what's the point of having someone here overnight if I'm just going to be awake anyway? At about 10 months, I realized how time consuming it was, how stressful it was, bringing all the bottles with me to the office and making sure that I had the pump and all the parts and cleaning everything. And it was so time consuming. I had to like weigh the pros and cons of my time and my mental health versus the baby's
Mm-hmm.
health.
Yep.
And at that point, I was like, you know what? 10 months is good. It's enough. And it wasn't worth all the stress to me to do that.
That is something that a lot of women don't realize because it's like, well, you're just, just breastfeeding or it's just pumping. And there's nothing as just pumping. The
Oh,
time commitment, the cleaning, looking at the clock, feeling really full, the physical effort, the emotional stress.
and like the lactation people at the hospital were great and really helpful. And I had an outside lactation consultant come in, but I never thought, oh, I need someone to teach me how to breastfeed properly and like how to just the angles. And then I was having shoulder pain because I was,
Hmm.
it's a
Yeah.
lot.
Lactation consultants wouldn't exist if it was that easy.
Right. Right. I think probably then the most sort of fascinating thing about having my daughter was when she turned 1. I remember I was looking in the mirror and doing my makeup, and I felt like this cloud lifted off me. And it was like this weird aura sensation of just like lightning. And then the postpartum stuff was gone.
Wow.
It was so strange. And in terms of like a mental health perspective, like I can't explain it. So to me, that's all hormone shifting.
Hmm.
And like,
And that was right around a year.
mhm,
And you had stopped breastfeeding around
mhm,
10 months ish.
mhm,
So probably
yeah,
right after that for you.
yeah. So that was really just kind of a fascinating phenomenon for me.
Hmm. Yeah, I see a lot of women, some struggle during that whole weaning process with how they're feeling pain, um, how their bodies feel to them, sometimes with prolapse symptoms, sometimes with other pelvic floor symptoms, leakage, that kind of thing. Some will be struggling right up until kind of like all those hormones after weaning happen. Some wean without any issue whatsoever, and others, like every time they drop down a feed, something weird is happening with them.
Our bodies are fascinating. It's
Yeah.
just really wild. I mean, the fact that we can actually like feed and sustain our children, like that's still kind of hard for me to process. Like I did it with 3 of mine. I mean, I did supplement, but like I did it. But there's definitely a lot of like shame around, I think, women who don't nurse.
Some people really look down on people who aren't breastfeeding, which I think is a shame because some can't. Some do not produce enough milk to be able to feed their children. Some have had breast cancer and
Yeah,
they had their breasts removed, and so
sure.
they have to. Some can't commit the time
Right.
that they need to
Right.
be able to breastfeed
Yeah.
because they're working 2 jobs. They had to go back to work a week after delivering if they had that long off. Every parent is going to have to make the choice that works for them
Hmm.
for feeding and for you know everything that they do with their child, how they manage them with sleeping, how they manage them with anything else.
Yeah.
You have to like take care of yourself. Your oxygen mask goes on first.
That's what I say all
um,
the time. Yeah. And, no matter what you read, I think as a mom, you read articles about like daycare is a positive thing. You read articles about how daycare creates attachment disorders and all of our kids are going to be messed up for going to daycare. And like, no matter what, as a mom, I feel like you're doing it wrong. Like, there's no winning.
Yeah, it feels that way. It definitely feels that way when you're going through
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I mean, and I see that with my clients too, where they're like, what do I do? I don't know. But ultimately, we need to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of others. If we're not breathing, how can we help anyone else?
Yeah. Now, did you struggle with producing enough milk for all three kids, or was it
Yeah,
just the first one?
all
Yeah.
three.
So there's an, a condition called insufficient glandular tissue, where some women do not have enough glandular tissue to produce adequate amounts of milk. And those, it's really a struggle, and they have to supplement because they physically cannot produce enough milk to be able to give their child enough calories
Right,
to grow.
right, right. But in that moment,
You feel like you're a failure.
yeah, yeah, because everyone says, "Oh, breastfeeding is so easy. It'll be fine." And I get people are trying to be reassuring, and nobody wants to terrify a new mom. It's already scary enough, like bringing a human into the world. So
Right, right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
With my second, he wanted to nurse in the hospital for like 4 hours straight.
Oh,
Yeah,
your poor nipples. Your
right.
poor nipples. Oh my
So
God.
after hour three, well, like after hour three, I was like, okay, give me the formula. Like I wasn't messing around because I knew
Hmm.
A, I needed some sleep, and B, I wasn't gonna survive.
Uh-huh.
It just wasn't gonna happen. So, I ended up giving him formula in the hospital because he needed to eat. What am I gonna do?
Hmm.
Not feed my
Right,
baby? I mean,
right.
yeah, it's funny. My first was 4 days late. My second was 4 days early, and my third was 4 days late. So it was like, and we barely made it to the hospital with my second. I was like, we left too late. Because I like looked at, it's like you're looking at the app and it's like, go to the hospital now. And I'm like, checking my husband, I'm like, it is time to go. And barely made it there on time. So I was very lucky that I was still able to get the epidural. And the joke was that his first name was going to be a curse word because that's all I was saying the whole time. So, yeah, delivery with him, I don't think I had any like tearing or anything with him. He came out like fast. He was ready to come out. And he's been slow ever since. He's like molasses, but I love him. So he's slow to do everything else now, but he was quick to come out of me. But within like between the pregnancies, like after my first, I lost 50 pounds. Well, I gained 50 pounds with the first pregnancy, then lost in between, then gained 50 pounds with the second pregnancy, lost in between, then gained again, and lost after. But it's a roller coaster for your body, and it's hard because at the time you're stressed and you're pregnant and you just want to eat whatever it is your body will actually allow you to eat
Hmm.
because
Yep.
you'll have like all the food aversions and like this is the only thing I want to eat right now. And as much as I tried to be healthier with the second and third pregnancies, I still gained the weight. um and I tried to be more mindful, but
Sometimes, well, and also the body does what it's going to do.
yeah.
I mean, I probably exercised the most and watched what I ate the most for my first, and I as well gained 50 pounds for that pregnancy. But I was exercising because I didn't have another child that I was, running around after at that time.
Right.
So I was exercising several days a week. I was really, worried about everything I was putting into my mouth when I could put something into my mouth. And then with the second one, I exercised less. I cared less about, what I was eating, and I only gained 30. And with the third, I probably exercised the least, watched what I ate the least, and I gained 8 pounds. It's like my
I wish
body
I
did
were
what it
that
was going.
lucky.
My
Yeah.
body did what it was going to do. Like
I
I felt like I had zero control over what the scale was going to say,
right.
and yet I had. And it was funny being overweight to start with. I had the first doctor because I moved from Michigan to Florida at when I was pregnant with my third. And in Michigan, that doctor's like, well, if you don't gain any weight, you're overweight anyway. It doesn't matter. In Florida, that doc was like, you really need to be gaining 30 pounds for this whole, you are way behind. You need to be eating, you make sure you're eating, make sure, so he was upset that I wasn't gaining. And the other one was like, please don't gain. And
I had one of my OBs who knew I was a social worker asked me, like, is there a good way to tell a woman that they're gaining too much weight? And I'm like, no.
yes, you say it inside your head and it doesn't come out here.
Like there's no way to say that to someone without them feeling horrible.
Maybe not do it like during a pelvic exam. That would be, a start.
Yeah, that's definitely.
I say that from personal experience. True story.
They just look at the chart and they just, yeah. And I get it. Like they see babies and pregnancies all the time, but it's, when it's new to us, it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot.
Now, postpartum, were you left with any issues? Because you said you had an episiotomy with that first one. Were you left with any pain or any issues from that?
Well, yeah. I mean, like, it took me longer to heal, obviously, because of that. And it was very uncomfortable. You don't know what to expect, but they tell you like to be careful about lifting as much or doing as much. So it was, you're much more restricted in that way.
And here's your baby.
Right. Here's your
That you have to lift all
baby.
the
But by the
and it's
way,
car
like
seat.
try not to do too many stairs and try not to lift too much and try not to bend too much and try not to like don't be on your feet too much. It's and you're over the sink and you're washing bottles and you're sterilizing and you're washing clothes and spit up and like, at the time when you're in labor and everything needs to go quickly, she's like, I'm going to cut you. And I'm like, what? Like, okay, what do I do? Like, if the baby needs to, if that's the way that, if that's what needs to happen, that's what needs to happen. But nothing's the same afterwards. I mean, you have 3 babies coming out. Nothing's going to be the same afterwards, but nothing's the same afterwards. So, and I know that's a lot, and I apologize to future patients, but am I? But I did go to pelvic floor therapy after my third, but that was only because I learned what it was. And I had to advocate to my doctor and say, like, I feel like this is not right. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was leaking and like just nothing felt right. And I also had what is it?
Diastasis, recti,
Diastasis
yeah,
recti.
where the abdominal muscles are sitting here instead of there.
So I, got that treated, but like, had I not advocated to my doctor and said, I think I need this, had I not known, and seen like moms on moms groups starting to talk about pelvic floor therapy. And I Googled it and I'm like, what is this? You know, you have no idea. Like, I'm really glad that there are more of you out there that are talking about this and spreading the word and, you know, educating people, because
Hmm.
I had no clue. You know, again, the doctor was just like, do Kegels. Make sure you're
Yeah.
doing your Kegels. Are you doing your Kegels? Make sure you're doing your Kegels.
Like that fixes everything.
I'm like,
I wish I could take that word out of their mouths so they would have to send them to PT. I was talking to a therapist this weekend, and she was from Belgium. And she said the women there get 14 or 15 treatments before they deliver, and they get 14 or 15 after they deliver from pelvic floor PT. That's just automatic.
that's a whole other conversation about our medical system that I'm not ready to get into.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, no, that
Yeah.
would have been phenomenal. Like,
And, just a lot of women have just accepted, and they hear from their moms, their sisters, their friends. Well, of course you're going to pee when you cough or sneeze because you've had a baby. Or, of course, you're going to pee when, this happens. Or, things drop a bit after you have a baby, or sex isn't the same, or, if that's even brought up. Um, but no, a lot of these things can absolutely be addressed, and they should be. Things are common after giving birth, but it's not normal. And we need to really normalize getting treatment after having birth.
right. Like now I sing the phrases. I'm like, yes, please. Pelvic floor therapy. Yes, please. Like, go.
Hmm.
And I had to sort of argue with my doctor about it. And she was like, you don't really need it. I like the face. I like that face. It's a great face. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, she was like,
yeah.
are you sure you don't really need it?
One thing that women should know is unless it's required by your insurance or in your state, if you don't have direct access to PT, you don't need a referral from a physician to seek out a physical therapist. So in most states now, I think you can get PT without a referral.
Oh, that's good.
Sometimes an insurance will require it, particularly an
Yeah.
HMO. Um, but if you
Yeah.
don't have one of those, and if you live in a state where you can just call up a PT and go, a lot of times hospital based will require a prescription, but if you're going to a private clinic, it's not necessary.
Yeah. I had to get a referral with my insurance.
Mm.
So, but I mean, the fact that, yeah, I had to sort of argue with her, and yeah, they just said, we'll just do more Kegels
Yeah.
and just lose more weight, lower your stress level, exercise more. Right. You're telling me
you
this
know,
as I had, I mean,
your third child.
my kids were 24 months apart, all like, so, I had like a 2-year-old at home and an infant, and they're like, lower your stress level. I'm like, are you going to come move in with me? Because no, like, it's just not happening.
Now, did you have postpartum depression and anxiety after the other two?
It was not as severe. I had it. I don't know if it was more, I recognized it and was more self aware, or if they were both because they were boys. I don't know.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was not as intense, not as severe. And I think also part of me was like anticipating that it was going to happen.
Hmm.
So there's that factor as well. Um, but yeah, it was, it's so fascinating how every pregnancy is different and every postpartum
Hmm.
experience is different.
Is completely different. Yeah.
Yeah.
And did that subside as well with weaning from breastfeeding with
Yes.
the other two?
Yeah. Our bodies are
Good.
funky.
Uh-huh. Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
That's a technical term, right? Funky.
Yeah. Funky, funky, definitely funky.
Again, with my first, because I was having so much postpartum depression and anxiety, I was so controlling about everything. And one thing I kind of try to tell mothers now is to try to delegate more and let go and accept the help. And when your friend says, what can I do? Like, write a list of things that your friends can do when they come over, because, other than just holding the baby so you can shower, let them actually do things for you if they're offering. I
Mm-hmm.
wish I had done more of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
wish I had just sort of delegated more to, my husband or whoever was around at the time, because I have family that lives close, but I, kept saying, I got it, I got it, I got it, I can do it, I got it. When, I was drowning, but didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize I was.
Right.
So
Right.
it's like, accept the support, accept the help, even if you think you don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't need to be a martyr. I know that I was very lucky with all three. I know that I'm very lucky that they all, are healthy and happy. And it was three relatively easy pregnancies, three relatively easy labors. I know how blessed we
Mm-hmm.
are.
All right. Well, I want to thank you very much for joining me and sharing your stories.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that is helpful to other women out there.
Me too.
So thank you very much again. And we'll see you next time on the Postpartum Years podcast. Thank you.